Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Political Forum. My name is Mike Jacobson. This is your chance to speak with elected officials and those who are civically engaged in the city of Chicago and beyond. And joining us tonight, Richard Boykin, candidate, clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. Richard, always a pleasure to have you on.
Honored to be here, Mike. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, so now this is your opportunity to have a question, comment, or concern for Mr. Boykin. The number's at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. And again, you can also watch us online. We are at cantv.org/hotline, cantv.org/hotline. All right, so a lot of people know you because you were in the county politics as a commissioner, and now you're running, for the clerk of the circuit court. So what's been going on for the last year or so since you left office?
So I've been working at my law firm at Barnes and Thornburg. I've been, practicing law and making a living and trying to make a difference in the lives of ordinary people too by my contributions to good causes. And we've been involved today. We had a great activity. We had a nutrition and health equity summit up at Mile Square Health Center.
I believe we covered that, right?
We brought together a lot of professionals. Dr. Terry Mason. We had the public health director from the state. We had Congressman Davis. We had Congresswoman Robin Kelly, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. A lot of people, 80 plus people attended, and it was an all-day affair. It was great.
So, just bluntly, why'd you throw your hat in the ring?
Because, look, the clerk of circuit court, when you look at the urgent issues confronting Chicago and Cook County residents, none of those issues are more urgent than access to justice. And quite frankly, no office in Cook County impacts people's lives in a way of justice than the clerk's office. I often say that the clerk's office is the front door to our justice system. So anybody who has to file a lawsuit, anybody who has to deal with the judiciary has to go to the court, to the circuit court and the clerk's office. And quite frankly, that's part of the reason why we're running. Look, I've heard stories from people about individuals having to stay in jail longer because their records got lost. Individuals not being able to access courtrooms because of disabilities, individuals having trouble with the state-mandated e-filing system, poor people. And so I think that nothing's more critical than access to justice, and we look forward to, really being an advocate for the people. When I served as a county commissioner, I was proud to have one of the best voting records and attendance records at the county board while I was there, along with Chairman John Daly. But I was proud to stand up every day for working class men and women, for poor people, to try to make things better in the county. One of the things that we did, of course, is we got rid of that god-awful pop tax. We repealed that. And for the last 2 years, Mike, the county has not raised taxes. They haven't needed the revenue. Now, President Preckwinkle said at the time that she needed $200 million from the pop tax. We don't believe it would have brought in $200 million. But I said at the time we needed to restructure county government to get rid of open positions that were basically patronage positions, for special interests. And I said we need to restructure things. So we wound up laying off less than 100 people out of 22,000 people, less than 100. And now you have a county government that's robust and to the point where for the next upcoming fiscal year, there's no tax increase.
Boy, your answer there, it brought a bunch of questions for me. Number one, is it important? What you're talking about, there's really, it's the give and take of politics. You know what I mean? Like when people are trying to find something, there's always a point and a counterpoint. And so is that type of experience, that you went through as a commissioner. Whether you brought about the pop tax, that was an issue a lot of people talked about. Some people liked it, a lot of people didn't like it. But but that was something that for you, that you were one of the people you were really against it. But having that give and take, is that important? When you're moving forward.
It's very important. This is democracy. Yeah. It's very important that we listen to both sides. It's very important that you have a counterpoint. Right now, I think it's not good when you don't have a counterpoint. Yeah. I mean, because then people just run their tired, stale ideas, and they can be counterproductive to the citizens, as this pop tax was. Quite frankly, look, I want to do everything I can to help people with obesity. I want to do everything I can to help people with other ailments that they have health-wise. I saw no reason why we shouldn't. She could have implemented a tax where she said, I'm going to put an extra penny or extra 2 pennies on every sweetened beverage sold in the county. I'm going to take 1 penny and put it in the public health fund. With that, you're going to give to organizations to go around the county and do public health education around the dangers of sugar, too much sugar consumption. And then you take a penny and put it in the general fund so that you can deal with county government and meeting the needs of the poorest of the poor. But because she didn't do it that way, because she just wanted, it was sheer greed, really. It was a power grab. And I think the people revolted, much like they revolted against the Britons, against the tax on tea.
So, how about that? All right. So now let's talk about the office. Dorothy Brown, you've been in office, it'll be for about 20 years.
Correct.
Where do you see what do you like what she's done, and where do you see that there could be improvements?
Look, I think that every office can have room for improvement. That's every office.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think that Clerk Dorothy Brown has done some good things. I think the work that we helped her do on the expungement summits that she does is recognized across the country. I mean, at the expungement summit, she has between 500 to 1,000 people getting their records expunged. This is vitally important so people can get that off their records so that they can move on with their lives and get access to gainful employment that will help them to support their family. Look, we put significant investments while I was a commissioner. I voted for significant investments in technology to help streamline processes in the office and to make the front door of that justice system as welcoming as possible and as accommodating as possible to people. Quite frankly, I think we can step it up in that area and make sure it's more welcoming. I think we can work with the users of that office to make sure that that things are streamlined in a way where if you're a litigant or if you're an attorney on a case, you don't have to come to the circuit court just to download documents regarding that case, but you can do it from your office and do it that way. I think these are some of the things that we can do to make the office more efficient and effective on behalf of the taxpayers of Cook County.
Well, folks, if you have a question or comment, call the number to the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. And in fact, we have a caller on right now. Caller, do you have a question or comment?
Hi, yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So historically, we've seen many local elected officials rack up corruption charges. So do you think we should have a canvass reform to stop this?
I couldn't hear.
Talking about reform, the caller saying that, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier, how that there's been a lot of, corruption allegations, and so you look like Lori Lightfoot, she ran, she was, a person who was going to bring change to that, and so talk about reform, so the question is is that something that's important for this office? Is it something possibly that you're looking into doing?
Well, let me tell you, in government, we need to have the highest levels of ethics. And as a commissioner, I had the highest level of ethics. I mean, wherever I thought there may be a conflict of interest, I always sought out counsel at the county board or the appropriate body to make sure that we were complying with the rules. I mean, as a lawyer, I understand the importance and the need to make sure that we have the highest level of ethics. I don't want to have to be called before the Attorney Disciplinary Commission, the ARDC. just for some nonsense. And so I also think that when you have corruption, it erodes people's trust in government,
Right.
thereby having people participate less in government and have less confidence in government. And so the caller is absolutely right. We must demand reform, we must expect reform, and we must expect the highest level of ethics from our elected officials.
Wonderful.
And
Thank
that's
you.
what they'll get from me.
Thank you for that question, Carl. Appreciate it. All right, so moving forward, like you didn't get the official endorsement from the Cook County Democratic Party. Does that bother you, or does it affect you moving forward? How about that question?
Not at all. I mean, let me tell you, I never expected to get it. Tony Preckwinkle, President Preckwinkle is the head of the Cook County Democratic Party. It's well known how she feels about me. And I suspect that the person who did get it, he worked the room and he's a political insider. But I'd also encourage people to take a look at his record, dig deep. He's on the Board of Review. And at the Board of Review, they, of course, hear property tax appeal cases. And you have to have a lawyer before them. And so look at who's been giving him money. Most of his money has come from those lawyers who brought cases before him that he had to decide on. The caller talked about corruption.
Right.
And so a lot of those cases, and we've begun looking at them, he's decided favorably for those lawyers and their clients. And so then they turn around and they give him political donations. I mean, people are tired of pay-to-play kind of politics in Cook County and in the city of Chicago, and quite frankly, throughout the state of Illinois. So I encourage people to look at his background, and quite frankly, the Democratic Party of Cook County has oftentimes nominated or slated people who are ethically challenged.
Right.
And it's a real quandary, but I encourage people to be engaged in this campaign, to listen to the issues, and to not get caught up in the noise that they will try to bring. I think the other day, one of his spokespeople said that Boykin's a Republican in disguise. That couldn't be anything further from the truth, quite frankly. I'm a lifelong Democrat, grew up in Inglewood, proud of the votes that we took on the county board. No Republican would vote for the kinds of things, progressive ideas that I voted for, or bring them forward on the county board that I brought forward.
Yeah, I think to the touching point a little earlier, I think that's it. Like in terms of voters, and voter engagement, and overall just citizen engagement,
Right.
In the county, I think a lot of people are like, here we go again. And that's possibly what they're afraid of when they're looking at offices, when they hear about what's happening, in city, county, and also in state government. And I think that's something that's an obstacle I think that a lot of politicians moving forward are going to have to answer, right? And this is something, are people asking you or bringing this up to you like, well, you're just going to do the same thing that other people have done?
Look, people know Richard Boykin. They know that he fought for them on issues like the pop tax. I voted against the sales tax increase that made us the highest in the nation. They know that I stood up for working class men and women, voted for all of the increases for labor unions that came before the board, and they know that I stood up for them. But because I took the leadership in repealing this tax and getting rid of this pop tax, they came after me, the party and all. They came after me hard, labor unions and all, and they won. But the reality of it is that this office, the Clerk of Circuit Court, does not represent one political party. It represents all of the taxpayers of Cook County, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. And quite frankly, I'm going to talk about the issues that impact the people and how we streamline things and how we make things more efficient and effective and how we, energize and inspire the workers, how we up the morale there, how we make sure that we come from under the Shackman decree that the office is currently under, where taxpayers are spending money on that as well because of political hiring and that sort of thing. Look, we're going to represent the people like I did when I was a county commissioner. I expect to do the same thing. I'm not bought by anybody, and I'm not going to be bossed by anybody. I'm going to represent the people, and that's who I'm going to look to.
So another question here. So you're right now going up against 4 other candidates so far, but you're the only African American candidate.
That's correct.
What sets you apart when you're talking about platform here?
Look, I think, one, the fact that I've been an attorney since 1994, a licensed attorney. The other thing is that I served on the county board, and so I voted on 4 budgets of the clerk's office. I'm familiar with the office. I'm familiar with the inner workings of it. I'm familiar with the current clerk. But I also think that the record that we have of actually going in and transforming things. Look, nobody really knew what a county commissioner did. But when Boykin went in, I reported back to the people every week. I did a weekly report on everything that we did that week. And so, like that, we'll do the same thing at the clerk's office. I held more town hall meetings to seek input from people in the community than perhaps anybody else. And I'll do the same thing. Look, I'll be visible. I'll be available. People will be able to touch me. I'll be at their neighborhood parties. I'll be at their picnics, parades. I'll be at their churches because I want to hear from them. And I want them to know that I'm accessible. Mm-hmm. But we're going to work our hearts out to win this race on behalf of the people, because the people deserve to have this office. And quite frankly, it should not be a haven for patronage and political jobs and that sort of thing. So I think that those are some of the things that separate me from the other candidates. And, you know, I'm not looking for this office because I'm bored in my current office or because this is the next rung on the political ladder for me. I genuinely want to serve. I enjoy public service. And quite frankly, I'm here. And like Isaiah said, send me. I think he said, "Here am I." Send me.
Exactly. So let me ask you this, because you brought up a point like not a lot of people know what a county commissioner does, and I think the same thing comes on with this position here as the clerk of the circuit court. So talk about that. You know what it entails. You know, and also talk. You also mentioned a little bit about transparency and how you do want to bring more transparency to the office.
Absolutely. So it's the second largest combined court system in the United States of America. Hears more cases than any other court system in the United States. Quite frankly, it does a lot of interaction with the chief judge and all of the judges. Does interaction with the sheriff and his office. For example, I talked to somebody the other day who lamented the fact that oftentimes they don't get notice about an individual who's on electronic monitoring, and whether or not why that notice didn't come from the clerk's office that this individual is done with electronic monitoring, where it should have come and gone to the sheriff's police so that they could go remove the device. Oftentimes they hear from the defense lawyer and he says, "Hey, my client's been off electronic monitoring for a week, but he's still got the bracelet. What's going on?" And so then they contact the clerk's office, say, "Okay, yeah, it's there, hey, sorry, here it is." Or somebody who's sitting in jail and that they're waiting to get out, and they can't find their records. Mm-hmm. This office is vitally essential, and quite frankly, again, it's the front door to the justice system. So, if you're filing a divorce, if you're filing a will, or probating a will or an estate, you got to go to the clerk's office. So anything legal related, you got to go through the clerk's office, and it ought to be a pleasant experience. It shouldn't be an experience where individuals are sent to multiple floors before they can find the actual answer that they need. Right. It ought to be a situation where that office is so accommodating that when someone comes in the door, you say, "Hey, what is it that you need? This is where you go." And they take care of them. And then those things that can be done through technology at your home or at your business ought to be done there, and you should be able to pay securely for that service as well. And so that's what the office does, and it's basically an administrative post, but it's a post that's vitally essential to access to justice.
So you brought up technology, which is important because this is one of the things that you mentioned before, also part of your platform, is saying that you want to bring more technology to the office in terms of also to help close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Can you explain that?
So, look, the state mandated e-file system.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who have trouble using that, poor
Right.
people. And so we have to figure out how do we make the technology simpler for them to be able to utilize that technology since the state did mandate it. There are other things in terms of just access to documents and whether or not a person's able to access those documents, from their home. And so we ought to figure out ways in which we can bring technology, but it's the right size technology. I mean, I think when I was on the county board, we did a lot of investments in terms of technology for not just the clerk's office, but the recorder's office and other offices. And you just hope that technology is being used in a way to help streamline things and help make things more efficient and effective for the users of that office. And so one of the things, though, that I think needs to happen is that there needs to be a suggestion box, at the end of every station there at the clerk's office. And quite frankly, I saw one at the sheriff's office. He's got an office in the Daily Center, and he has a suggestion box. And we ought to read them. We ought to read every suggestion, and where that suggestion can be implemented, we ought to implement it if it makes sense. But then, too, you ought to go into the community and talk to people about what the clerk's office can do for them and how it can help them, how it can help move their life forward. That's what we'll do. We'll do it. I mean, we'll go on a town hall style tour within the first 120 days and touch every community and be visible and available for them to listen to them and provide information to them.
Boy, like you read my mind, because my next question was, if elected, hit the ground running. What are you going to be doing? Obviously, you're setting up the town halls. What else is important that you want to get to right away?
I think also setting up task forces for the office to help in terms of made up of lawyers, made up of ordinary citizens, to make recommendations on how do you make things more efficient, more effective for the average citizen. How do you close that technology gap that exists? I don't have all of the answers, but the good news is that the answers are there, and I have a willingness to listen, and I have a willingness to implement and to get it done. I mean, that's what we were able to do in the county commissioner's office. Look, we put forward some powerful proposals. Some of them we got done, some of them politics didn't enable us, didn't allow us to get them done. But with this office, because it's a independently elected office, I think we'll be able to implement those things. I think we'll be able to go to the county board and ask for what we need in order to implement things.
One thing I also want to ask about, also for people who are in the disabled community, what can you do for them to make the office easier and more accessible?
Look, it becomes a matter of more than just construction and engineering, right?
Right.
It becomes a matter of making sure that their voices too are at the table. And that's why I'm so proud that I serve on the Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind. I serve on their board, and I've served on that board for 13 years. And I've learned an awful lot about how we help them. They had an unemployment rate of 75%, the blind community. And so one of the things that we did is we helped them get the tollway contract with Illinois. And we put a lot of people to work who are blind and visually impaired. Much like that, we will have a task force made up of individuals. I don't like to say they have disabilities because I think, quite frankly, many of us who, may not have those physical challenges, may have other kind of challenges. Right. But I want to have everybody at the table, and so I'm going to have people from the Lighthouse involved in our task forces and other communities involved as well.
Well, if you can believe, we got to start wrapping up. So the floor is yours. So the last minute of the show. So tell people why that they should vote for you to come the primary.
Look, so I'm asking people to vote for me because I'm going to stand up for you, much like I did as a county commissioner. Check out my record. Don't listen to all the rhetoric and the noise that you'll hear from some of my opponents, because they're just going to try to divide and drive you away from me. But quite frankly, I've always stood on your side, and I've always stood up for what's right. And I'll always continue to do that because I have the highest level of integrity and ethics. And believe you me, I'll work my heart out for you day and night, and I'll make that clerk's office the most efficient, effective office that you've ever seen. And it's your office, and you deserve to have it that way.
All right, Richard, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Appreciate it. I want to thank Omari for taking care of the phones, and I want to thank you viewers for calling in and for just watching us. This has been Political Forum with Richard Boykin, candidate for the Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. Watch Political Forum. It's on every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And until next week, everyone, please have a good night.